Oklahoma County District Judge Joe Cannon decided he needed to call a clarification hearing today on one of his recent liquor rulings. The judge ruled that Oklahoma liquor wholesalers can sell liquor to out-of-state businesses. But two distillers, Bacardi and Somerset, went to federal court to fight the Cannon ruling. Federal Judge Luther Eubanks said it was okay for distillers to make Oklahoma wholesalers sign affidavits, promising they won't sell the Oklahoma liquor to other states. Richard Chris of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board was in court today as Judge Cannon cleared up the confusion on what is the law.
In my opinion, now, what does the ABC Board have in front of it? What have they got to do? They've got an order from me telling them that they have to follow the law as I interpreted it. If they don't do that, they're in contempt of this court. Then they come along with this other order that's a friendly suit order from the federal courts telling them they can't do that as far as Bacardi is concerned. I'm telling you that Bacardi is bound by my order just exactly like everybody else is.
The judge has made it perfectly clear to the ABC Board to listen to his ruling when it comes to the state law and not to follow the rulings of the federal court. Furthermore, he is warning all parties involved in this liquor matter, if they don't obey his law, then they're subject to suffer the consequences. Ed Stewart, Action 4 District Court. 4 District Court.
Santa Fe has grown with GM the past 2 years. The railroad has pumped millions of dollars into its equipment to help handle the steady stream of cars built at GM's Oklahoma City plant. Now it must cut back along with the giant automaker.
Santa Fe says it will lay off 113 operating employees this month. That figure includes 60 conductors, switchmen, and brakemen who will be let go just as soon as the GM plant shuts down. GM says it won't be needing the services of Santa Fe to bring parts to or carry cars away from this plant, at least until they resume production sometime next year.
I've been a railroader for 25 years, and I don't know even how to start to retrain myself, you know.
Bud Barnes is one of the cutback casualties. He worked for the Rock Island Line in Kansas until the railroad folded a couple of years ago. He moved to Oklahoma to work for Santa Fe. He thought that industries like General Motors would keep his new railroad busy. But a few days ago he was laid off, and he now realizes it won't be a brief termination.
Well, originally we thought it would be short-term, and of course we were laid off the 9th of December. That was before we knew GM was going to be down for another 14 weeks to retool. So we thought maybe we could weather the storm if it was for a short period, you know. But now we're looking at the middle of the year next year before things can pick up down, you know, on this subdivision. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm desperate, and I'm not alone there.
Santa Fe says it hopes to hire back its furloughed workers after GM reopens sometime next summer. In the meantime, the railroad employees may suffer more from the cutback than the auto workers. While the car makers can draw up to 95% of their standard salary, railroad workers will have to subsist on just $25 a day. Scott Wallace, Action 4, Southeast Oklahoma City.
Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Ha, ha, ha. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. We're going to go in inside and give away some apples and candy and stockings, okay? Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
We're here today asking for a stay of Judge Cannon's order, the trial court's order, because of now we're faced with a conflict of positions between the state courts and the federal courts. Judge Cannon has ordered the ABC Board to do one thing, while the federal courts, the Honorable Luther Eubanks and Honorable Ralph Thompson, have ordered the ABC Board to do another. We've asked this court for a stay to relieve Richard Crisp and the ABC Board from the intolerable position that they're in and being faced, being in conflict with one of those orders no matter what he does.
In early December, a congressional committee came to Oklahoma City to check out alleged grade fixing for several students at the Air Traffic Controller Academy. During that time, officials at the academy claimed some scores had been changed because of an error in the grading machine. Well, today, the federal committee announced its findings into the alleged cheating. It says there's no doubt that grades for 14 students had been rigged. Tim Burleycamp, a fired air traffic controller, says the academy is putting the public in danger if indeed they cheated on students' test scores.
You in Oklahoma City can sit just as confident as somebody in San Diego before the 727 fell on their head, and by fixing those grades gives you that less qualified person working the job as it was before.
Burleycamp says the allegations against the FAA are only a beginning in showing the public they're being cheated in more ways than one. From the way it looks now, the Air Traffic Control Academy has a lot of explaining to do, and so far today, they've had little to say. Meanwhile, the Federal Investigating Committee has asked the Department of Transportation to get involved and conduct a full-scale probe into the whole episode. Carol Lambert, Action 4 at the Will Rogers World Airport.
Their worst fears were realized. General Motors expected to lay off more employees for a few months in order to retool for another make of car. There's another fear among many employees, and it's not layoffs, but computers and robots.
The computer lies at the heart of the emerging information society. At its sides, robots and automation. The current generation of robots could perform 7 million existing factory jobs, according to a study by Carnegie Mellon University.
The overall trend is toward a marked reduction in the number of people in the factory. And it's just a question of time till we're down to 1 or 2 people in a control booth overseeing the factory's operation. There won't be traditional drafting jobs 5 years from now, 10 years from now. In some companies, there aren't drafting jobs today. Nothing is done on paper anymore.
Computers are generating blueprints. It is known in the industry as CAD/CAM, computer-aided design, and computer-aided manufacture. CAD/CAM systems like this one developed by Applicon are faster and more efficient than conventional design methods.
I think what you might see is some temporary dislocations in employment and the need for people to retrain themselves. But my feeling is that the high-tech industry will spur a lot more new employment.
Another CAD/CAM system designed by computer vision is boosting productivity at the Kingston Warren Company of Newfield, New Hampshire. A steel roll forming process was mapped out on the system and implemented in the firm's factory.
Well, once the design is completed on the computer, the manufacturing programmers, the machine operators out in the field have all of the information necessary to begin manufacturing it already built into the computer. So they will ask the computer to output tapes and so forth to run these machines rather than to have to sit down and rethink the job and redesign it in their minds.
With an increase in productivity, Kingston Warren has found the new technology increases employment.
When the system came in, we had approximately 400 employees. That was about a year and a half ago, and today we have about 800 employees.
As new technologies come online in factories, new types of jobs will be created, and in the factory of the future, persons will be needed to operate, maintain, and repair computers, automated machinery, and robots.
For every job that may be removed by a robot, there are probably 3 more sophisticated, more exciting, more challenging jobs created with the use of that robot.
The factory workers of today will need to learn new skills to survive in the factory of the future if they survive the layoffs in GM's case. Jerry Adams, Action 4.
The deafening noise from the nearby expressway is not enough to keep this man awake. He's celebrating Christmas in his own way, dreaming away the sober realities of life, reliving better days, better years. Street people, sometimes called transients, but better described as hobos, winos, and bums. This man will not warm himself in front of the fireplace on Christmas Eve. He won't open any presents, slice any turkey on Christmas. Street people don't really want your sympathy. More than likely, these men chose to make the street their home. Victims of society, maybe, but probably victims of their own habits, their own problems.
No, the reason I'm doing this, I'm looking for a friend, and I'm trying to help her get well. She's crippled and the rest of her life. That's the only reason I do this. She's a very special person.
Christmas will be spent doing the same things in the same places. Shooting the breeze and drinking from the bottle. Home is usually not a house. It's closer to walls with a roof over it. Garen takes us on a tour of his home and tells us a tale of death. There's no way of knowing if the story is true.
This room right here belonged to a woman, two kids, and a man. They got beat to death. When it comes right down to it, you get a lot of people hurting right down here on the streets. You got a lot of people who care about one another. The only kind of people that really care, your street people.
Well, sometimes street people forget. There are several places they can go for help, and one of them is the City Rescue Mission, where Christmas is closer to the real thing.
This around the mission is it's a lot of different things. It's hard to explain. These guys come from all walks of life. Some of these guys were executives. Some of them were very important people. They'll die here. They'll die somewhere else. They end up in the alleys. They end up staggering in front of somebody's car. And that's the sad part.
One thing street people have a lot of is time. At the City Rescue Mission, they wait for the Word of God, Christmas dinner, and a warm bed. Some of these men will return to the street. But for others, Christmas and the mission visit will be a turning point as they learn there is life and hope off the street.
Red Andrews started the traditional charity dinner over 30 years ago. Today, his relatives and friends carry on the Christmas delight. Food lines stretching far into the hall began well before 10 a.m. this morning and were expected to continue until late this afternoon. Plenty of volunteers were on hand to help with the serving, and professional chefs toiled over hot stoves preparing over 2,000 pounds of baked turkey. Before Red Andrews died in 1977, all the food was donated by local stores and wholesalers. But in the past few years, organizers have had to come up with some money to buy the supplies. This year, the money situation wasn't looking good, but like a miracle, the spirit of Christmas came through.
I mean, you can't believe the money that's come in, the food, we had to pay for all of it, but it's all paid for. We're not going to have any problems this year. We probably won't have any problems anymore now.
Needless to say, Santa didn't forget the Red Andrews dinner either. Stacks of toys were boxed, which caught the fascination of every child there. If a particular toy was their Christmas wish, all they had to do was ask, and volunteers gladly made today a real holiday. Carol Lambert, Action 4.
That'll be the same as Day-Hoon Drive. Day-Hoon Drive will be the same. They changed the name of it.
The AMCARE Communications Center operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There's no such thing as Christmas Day off. There's a full staff on duty just as any other day. You can't cut back when lives are involved. But employees don't seem to mind. They realize the importance of their job. These two are responsible for all the emergency medical care. They dispatch AMCARE units, which are stationed all over the city, to areas of need.
Code 3 clearance from Britton Road and Broadway.
All right, just stay there. We'll get... The center's computer is programmed for quick response. For example, this screen gives the number codes for frequently used telephone numbers. To place the call, the dispatcher simply pushes a button. Christmas Day for emergency teams can be either very busy or very slow. Oklahoma City's AMCARE units report that 1981's Christmas Day has been very busy.
If you're thinking that it must be awful to work on Christmas Day, then think what it would be like if they didn't work. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
This was a familiar sight before Christmas, and it's been one the day after Christmas, too. Throngs of people crowding into Oklahoma shopping malls. Some lined up to take advantage of the traditional after-Christmas sales, and more sales. Others crowded around the refund counter, exchanging what didn't fit or just didn't appeal.
Didn't fit, and it wasn't really something I wanted.
Somebody had a little bit different taste than you.
Yeah, I was told that everybody wears these in Oklahoma, but I live in Georgia, and Western's not really the thing in Georgia.
Duplicates, same thing.
You got the same thing twice?
Right. How about that?
Yeah.
Most husbands won't be out today because football games, and they hate to return things, but I guess I'm henpecked and I was told to return things today.
She hates it. Her taste doesn't match with mine.
The only thing worse than fighting the crowd on one side of the counter was probably putting up with the crowd on the other side of the counter. Diana Culp drew that responsibility.
Yeah, I worked day after Christmas last year, and it's very typical. Maybe a little busier this year than last, I think.
Mark Pardee, Action 4, Quail Springs Mall.
The incident began shortly before 3 o'clock this afternoon when a phone cable laying machine accidentally snagged a 4-inch natural gas line. The ruptured line spewed a cloud of highly explosive fumes over the nearby Wedgwood apartments. firemen dissipated the gas by spraying a fine stream of water on the break. No one was hurt. The fire department took no chances. Firefighters knocked on apartment doors in their effort to evacuate 75 families. They wanted to clear the area in case the gas ignited.
I think it would be unlikely at this point for anything to go wrong because we've taken these precautionary measures. But with any kind of natural gas, propane, liquid gasoline, any kind of gas leak, there's a potential for explosion and fire. And that's why we immediately take steps to see that doesn't happen.
Tonight, Oklahoma Natural Gas Company crews finished repairing the break. And once the situation was safe, the apartment evacuees were allowed to return home. Scott Wallace, Action 4, Northwest Oklahoma City.
Today, those residents took their case to the State Corporation Commission. Although the hearing was delayed until February 17th, the issue is not over. Shovner Oil Company wants to put the well there. The city has said no to their permit request, and the oil company has taken the case to the district court. The company's attorney says he can understand the residents' concerns.
It happens all the time. The people that own the minerals obviously want the well. The working interest owners, the people that own the oil and gas leases, obviously want to drill the well. Lot owners around the proposed location who many times own surface rights only, naturally they don't want the well. The well is not going to benefit them, and there has to be a spirit of cooperation between the two.
Not too far away, the company has already put in one oil well. The new one would be located just south of the football field. Administration officials at McGuinness High School have okayed the well site, but the residents have banded together in their neighborhood organization to fight it. They say the value of their property will go down, their